Welcome back to SP Energy Network's Powering Conversation. Today we are super excited to have Sally Conway join us and talk to us about her incredible career. You've obviously recently retired, Sally, but you've had an incredible long journey to this point. So how are you, first and foremost?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Where we kind of usually start is where you started. So I guess the first question is how did you get into judo?
So I was always really sporty at school. Like I loved every single sport possible. And my dad thought it'd be like a great idea to take me along to the local judo club. I was getting picked on a little bit, but not anything too much. But I lacked confidence and I was really shy. So I went along to the local judo club and literally loved it from my very first session. I think I was about 10 years old when I started.
Oh, amazing. And when you started, was it a sport that was quite dominated by boys? You know, you started quite young. I can imagine that's probably not the most common sport that girls back then would have gone into. Was that the case?
It was, yeah, there was only me and I think two other girls that were on the judo mat, all the rest were boys. But one of the boys was my brother. So I loved like fighting with my brother. My mum and dad were happy as well because we were fighting it on the mat and not at home. So,
I was going to say, that would have been absolute carnage. Okay, cool. So I guess this is probably jumping forward now, but just off the back of that, is that something you've seen develop over the time you've been involved in judo, that the number of girls taking part in the sport has increased?
Yeah, the number of girls has increased by like quite a lot. I don't know like numbers and stuff, but yeah, there's loads and loads of girls doing it now. And actually in amongst Great Britain, we've got such a strong group of girls now doing judo, performing at the highest level. So it's really exciting to see, and then loads of younger ones coming through as well. So that's really positive.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I'm sure that's probably got a massive I'm sure you won't say this, but I'm sure that's massively down to kind of you as a role model for those girls to take up the sport as well, which is pretty cool. Is there anyone that, you know, as you were coming through the sport and obviously kind of going from strength to strength, or anyone you had as a kind of role model or inspiration growing up?
I guess when I was younger, I didn't really have a role model as such, but I really looked up to my mum and my dad and how positive they were, how hardworking they were, and always kind of like pushed us into things. You don't know if you're going to like it unless you try. So I think I always like looked up to them. And as I got a bit older in my judo career, I looked up to a woman called Kate Howie, and she'd won Olympic medals, world medals. She was the same weight category as what I was fighting in as well. So she was always one that was like, oh, she's doing these things, I want to do that. Yeah. And then when I moved up to Edinburgh when I was 18, I trained in the Edinburgh club with loads of strong judo players, and Sarah Clark was one of them. And the way she conducted herself, how hardworking she was, I just thought, yeah, that's kind of what I want to be.
As you came through, so you mentioned you moved from down south up to Edinburgh. What kind of brought about that change in terms of how your career was developing? So how come you moved up here?
So I left school when I was 16 and I went to somewhere called Bisham Abbey in London. Yeah. And it was a full-time judo centre there, and it was like lovely, and it was kind of a nice transition from being at home, having kind of everything done for you, like cooking, cleaning, washing, everything like that, then moving to Bisham Abbey where we still got our food cooked for us, but you had to kind of clean a little bit yourself, do your own washing. So that was a nice little step. And then Bisham Abbey closed a year or so after I was there. And then my junior coach at the time, Loretta Cusack, she's like, oh, come up and try Edinburgh. There's a strong full-time centre up here. So literally tried it for 2 weeks, loved it. It was tough, but absolutely loved it. And then the day after my 18th birthday, packed my dad's van up, and Dad drove me to Edinburgh, dropped me off, said bye, and then that was me. That was me. Like, I've been up here ever since.
Oh wow, okay, that's quite intense, from going from 16 years old at home to really kind of dropping in at the deep end by the time you're 18.
It was a shock to the system. It really was.
You obviously got to perform at London 2012 in front of a home crowd, and also at the Commonwealth in front of a proper home crowd in Scotland. How was that in terms of probably having, I assume, your family there and all of that goes with it?
Yeah, so the London Olympic Games to start with was incredible. Like the experience, like before, during and after, were insane. I think my favourite memory was walking into the opening ceremony of the London Olympics, and we were the last country to walk in, and there was glitter coming down from the ceiling, the crowd were going wild. I just remember walking in with my coach and my teammates, and like the hairs on your arms that stood up, it was just amazing. For the competition, I felt like I put too much pressure on myself because it was a home games, everyone was there watching. I was younger then as well, and I didn't feel like I dealt with those pressures and that stress very well at all. And I felt that it took a lot of the enjoyment away from it. So when I lost at the Olympic Games, it hit me hard. And I also had a shoulder operation afterwards, which I don't think helped with getting over it.
Yeah.
But I made a promise to myself, the next Olympic Games I would hopefully qualify for and go to. I just want to enjoy every single bit of it, because you've done all the hard work to get there. So it just, when you're there, you just have to maintain what you've got and enjoy it, be happy, and give it everything on the day.
Yeah, I don't know if you agree with this, but like when you're enjoying what you do, you perform better anyway. So like almost trying to take away that external pressure has a big impact on, I find this anyway personally, my performance. So I imagine almost having that first experience, and they quite often say that, don't they, with going to your first games, you don't always perform to where you can, because of it is just so overwhelming. And I know with a lot of athletes I've spoken to, that they seem to find this kind of second big championships they go to is really where they see kind of their performance, but also really enjoying that experience more. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're always learning, because at the Commonwealth Games in 2014, even though it was like a home games, it was in Scotland, the crowd were amazing. It was like this massive event. It was really cool. But the pressure again got to me, because before the tournament, everyone was coming up to me saying, "Oh, you're going to win. Oh, you've got this. You've got God." So every time someone said that to me, I'd find myself talking myself out of winning. Yeah. I said, "Yeah, but it's judo. Anything can happen. It's a sport. Like anything." And then, so without knowing it, I was actually talking myself out of winning. So I'd already lost in a way. Yeah. So when I got, and my main rival, he's a really good friend of mine, Fletcher. She fights for England. And we fought each other so many times before, and I'd never lost to her. I've always beaten her, but I knew the fight was always tough because we knew each other so well. Yeah. And the gap was getting closer and closer and closer. So on that day in the semi-final, I actually lost to Megan in golden score, and I was just distraught. Like I don't think I stopped crying, because I think only because I was so disappointed in myself, but like I felt like I'd let everyone else down as well. And I don't think I stopped crying from the moment I left the mat all the way to when I had to fight for bronze. I won the bronze, but it didn't feel, I felt just so disappointed. But then shortly after that, I started working with a sports psychologist, Andrew, and we worked so hard on like the mental side of my performance and everything like that. And I think from there, my consistency and performance and medals just shot right up, just from getting it right in my head.
That's really interesting. And I think it's probably something in your sport, which is it's not necessarily unique to your sport, but in comparison to maybe playing rugby, like you'll obviously play or have a judo match and then have maybe a matter of minutes before you then have to bounce back and go into another match. So is that a big element of kind of your approach to a championship? Because that kind of, like you say, bouncing back from a semi-final defeat to then a bronze medal match and having to refocus so quickly, how do you kind of approach that?
So when I went to the Rio Olympic Games, I had 5 contests in the same day. Yeah. And the first three, there wasn't that long in between each fight. I would say maybe an hour max, probably, in between those fights. But then when I lost the semi-final fight in golden score, there was only a 10-minute turnaround. So I just lost the Olympic semi-final. So win that, I'm in the final of an Olympic Games. Lose it, and then you're fighting for bronze. Yeah. So I remember everybody coming up, or loads of people coming up to me saying, "Right, self-focus, all you need to do is this and that." I already knew in my head, like, I think just from things not going so well in the past and like learning from other experiences, I was able to just say, like, no, I know what I need to do. I fought this girl loads of times before. I'm clear on what I need to do, clear on the plan, and I just needed to stay focused. I think I had enough time to change out of my white kit to my blue kit, or whichever way around it was. And and then we were both in the tunnel, and it would kind of happen like that. So you didn't really have time to think, "Oh my God, I'm so disappointed. I've just lost the semi-final." You just had to refocus and think about what was coming up.
Do you think those experiences you'd had, obviously, in London 2012 and in the Commonwealth really prepared you for that moment?
Oh, absolutely. I think the times where I've been uncomfortable or out of my comfort zone, or when I've been so sad because I've lost like one fighting out, like many tournaments, I think if it wasn't of experience in those times and finding ways with my coaches and psychologists to overcome those times and kind of refocus to make it better next time, there's no way I would have won that Olympic medal or what else I went on to achieve. You've
obviously competed in judo for, I think, is it 26 years now? I think I read somewhere. So an incredible amount of time. Within that, has there been kind of, I guess, some low points? You know, I've watched a couple of your matches and seen just quite how incredibly physical and demanding the sport is. Is injury a big part of judo as well? Because I can imagine there's a lot of twists and things like that can be quite uncomfortable. Can you kind of highlight any low points, I guess, in your career which you've had to bounce back from?
So injury wise, I feel how I guess brutal at times judo can be. Actually, judo translates to the gentle way as well. It's very respectful and you look after your opponent and things, but obviously when you're on the mat, it is a fight.
Yeah.
And
I wouldn't say it looks gentle to me. As an outsider looking in, it does not look gentle.
And it is a fight, but at the same time, you do, if like your opponent taps or anything, like you let go or whatever. But I think after London was a big one, I had a shoulder operation. But then when I was younger, I actually broke my femur. And yes, I broke my femur when I was young, but I remember the doctor saying to me, so what are you going to do now? You can't do judo. I was like, what? I think I looked at my dad, I was like, I'm still doing judo like this. And then
I do quite sometimes laugh when doctors speak to athletes and they say things like that, like, no, that we're not normal people. No, that's not an option here.
And then I was fighting in this one competition and I just had a DEXA scan about the week before. It came back and said, oh yeah, your bones are so strong, like you need a baseball bat to break your bones. Anyway, went to the next competition, I broke my wrist and I was like, you could not write it. So but to be honest, I've been really lucky for how long my judo career has been and for the amount of injuries I've actually had. Like I've been so lucky.
Yeah, obviously quite recently you have announced your retirement from judo. So what prompted you to step away at this time?
I think it was a gradual process because the beginning of last year I fought in Paris and I was like really enjoying it, like I was performing well, and actually left that tournament with a knee injury and I had to have an operation on it. But I was so positive about how I performed, and I kind of remember sitting in the warm-up area feeling happy. Like I was like, it's fine because I'll have the operation, I'll get back for the Europeans, I'll qualify for the Olympics, I'll go to the Olympics. So it was all kind of like, happy days in February. And then obviously the year that everybody had last year and is continuing to have this year is just nobody could write it. It's like a massive change for everybody. And when the Olympics got postponed, in my head I was thinking, it's okay, like I've still got the lovely rowing machine from Raffo, I've still got stuff, I can still keep fit, I can still keep myself fit, and my goal is still to go to the Olympic Games. But then as the time went on, I found myself making decisions that wouldn't help me get to the Olympic Games. And I found like I wasn't missing judo so much. And when I had the opportunities to maybe go back on the mat, I was kind of like, no, I'm quite happy doing what I'm doing. And even though judo wasn't happening in Scotland, I could have seeked it from Holland or France and gone somewhere else. But the decisions that I was making weren't that. And I kind of thought, is this something I actually want to do anymore? And it happened gradually, but I thought, no, I don't think I actually want it. And we all know, like, when you want something, you'll do everything you possibly can to make it happen. And if you don't want something and you try, you're never going to achieve what you want to achieve anyway. So I'm so happy with my decision and that it's come to me naturally, because I don't think many people can leave a sport on their own terms. And I feel so lucky and grateful that I've been able to do that. And on to the next chapter.
So what does the next chapter look like for you? Or have you not had time to quite think about that yet?
No, I think I'm definitely going to take time to like think about what I want to do, but my heart is still very much with judo, and I'd love to like coach and see if that's something I want to do and pass on my experiences to the younger generation coming through. So it's really exciting, and I'm really excited to see what's next as well.
Yeah, that is super exciting. So one last question for me is, I guess, now that you've kind of taken a step back and you've looked back on your career, I guess, in these last couple of months and looking forward, what advice would you give to, you know, a young girl taking up judo, or someone who's kind of in the early stages of their career?
I would say it doesn't matter what size you are, like how old you are, like if you've got a little bit of interest in doing a sport or anything, just seek out your local judo club and go along. Like everyone's so friendly, so respectful, they make you feel welcome. And like my mum and dad used to say to me, like, you don't know if you're going to like something unless you try. So if that wasn't for me going along to that judo club the very first day, I would have never known I would have loved judo. So and had the experiences I've had. So yeah, just give it a go.
I think that's brilliant advice. So thank you so much for coming on, Sally. You've been incredible, and it's so refreshing to hear about your career and all you've achieved, and quite how modest you still are despite that. So thank you so much, and good luck with your next chapter.
Thank you so much for having me on.
If your power's out, give us a call on 105. No matter who you pay your electricity bill to, it's our team working tirelessly to get the lights back on. And if you need extra help when the power's out, we're here for you. Join our free Priority Services register. Sign up at our website or text PSR to 61999. SP Energy Networks, working 24/7 to keep your power flowing.